Hey, boys and girls, right? Like I'm some kind of kid show host or something, right? Teach your kids how to curse. The Uncle Simon Teach Your Kids How to Curse show. Make them into a turlet mount, right? All right. So anyway, this is Simon Chartier's New York stories, and I'm taking a little break from practicing, and I wanted to. This is kind of wrapping up the '70s and looking ahead. So. Anyway, I was in this kind of transitional period. Now looking back on it, I'm still playing with the Eddie D Orchestra, the Italian wedding band, and I'm playing with the classics, but I'm super interested in punk rock, and I decided I want to get into the punk rock scene. You know, I went to see the Ramones in '78. I went to see Thunders a bunch of times and the Ramones, and I started, you know, I wanted to go out and go to downtown. You know, it was like most of the weekends when the cool bands were playing, I was playing weddings in like Rockaway or Howard Beach or Bensonhurst. You know, so I was like playing a lot of weddings, but I still got out. So some good punk bands, and I was like, you know, I was also starting to. I ran into Chuck, and I met Chuck, and he was playing the flute and the drums at that point, not the saxophone. And so I started playing in this country rock band with Chuck. It was like a hippie country rock band. It was kind of like the last gasp of my hippie activity, but they needed it. They were very nice. They already had a great guitar player, Benny Landa. He's still active. He's played with all the greats, all the big name bands, toured all over the world. They already had Benny Landa, and I think he was about 15 or 16. But they asked me to play with them too, so I'm playing in this like country rock kind of hippie band. Kind of sounds like Flying Burrito Brothers or something. So we played that whole circuit in Bleecker Street on the west side. So the West Village was still like a hangover from the 60s, the folk era, and then the classic rock era. It wasn't too much punk over there. It was still like, you know, Washington Square Park was notorious. There'd be one guy all dressed up like Jimi Hendrix, completely walking around like a Jimi Hendrix imitator. Then there'd be your Bob Dylan imitators. There were a lot of them. And so it went, you know, it was kind of weird place, but so we used to play some real dive bars. There was like Mills Tavern, and the guy that ran the place, Charlie Mills, and he was really mean to all the bands. I think the bands got $10 for the whole band and a tip jar, and it was some kind of strange clip joint or something. Charlie was very mean to the bands and to the patrons, and you had to play House of the Rising Sun every set. That was one of the rules there. And I think you had to play from like, oh, you had to play some really long gigs, but I used to play down there with the country rock band, and I also used to play there with this guy Count Dracula. And it was kind of like the lowest level place on Bleecker Street. You know, it was like anybody could get a gig there. Chopped Liver could get a gig there. You know, that's why I was playing there. And then you had your other places down there like the Bitter End or Kenny's Castaways or the Bottom Line or something like that, right? So I was playing there, and the country rock band started edging further and further east, and we played a gig at Studio 10 on Bleecker Street. And this was run by some more hangovers from the 60s, the Yippies. And they were a whole bunch of anarchists, which was a good thing. But they also, we played there, and they were squatting in these 2 or 3 buildings. They had taken over these buildings, and this is incomprehensible to people in New York now, but it was like across the street for fucking CBGBs. And they just took over these buildings that had kind of fallen into disrepair, and they had like this one place, Studio 10, that was like their club where they had bands. Then they had Nine Bleecker, which is the headquarters of the Yippie Party, and then they had this other place where they published their newspaper, Overthrow Magazine, and then down the street they had this other guy, Mickey, that was like, he ran one of the first weed delivery services, like, and it was like kind of this compound of all these like really flea-bitten, unwashed, like hippies. Like, it was literally flea-bitten. Like, you'd be hanging out at Studio 10 and someone would bite you on the ankle, you know. So I played there with this guy, Shane Hughes. That was the hippie country rock band. So I was introduced to Studio 10. So now that's when the whole crazy shit starts, because I answered an ad in the Village Voice, and I went and auditioned for Ivan Julian. So I got the gig, so now I'm playing with Vinny D'Annunzio from the Feelies, Ivan Julian from the Voidoids, and also the Foundations, you know, like why do you build me up, buttercup, baby, just to let me down? Turn me around, I need you, baby, what's from my heart? So build me up, buttercup, don't break my heart. Right, that band, he played with them, and he played with Richard Hell and the Voidoids, and then the Feelies. So now I'm like, oh shit. So I just jump right into punk rock with 2 feet. That was it, you know. It was like, I don't even remember what happened to the Italian Wedding Band. Like, wow. I don't even remember. I mean, I don't even remember what happened to me, them. Like, did I quit or just kind of drift away? Or did Mike telling me things was slow? And I don't even remember. I wish I could tell you. I didn't really have any, you know. I mean, I loved those guys. I didn't love the fucking songs, all right? Can't smile without you. Can't smile without you. Can't laugh. But a bunch of fucking stinkers. Sometimes we would play cool songs. We would play Glenn Miller, In the Mood. We would play Tuxedo Junction. We'd play 1 O'Clock Jump. Take the A Train. So I lived for that, but I'll tell you the truth, I was really not too keen on playing Billy Joel, Barry Manilow. These songs are fucking stinkers. You Light Up My Life. Yeah, we had to play that shit. You light up my life. You give me hope to inject dope. You lighted my day. So now I'm playing with Ivan Julian. And I also want to mention that starting around 1977 or 1978, my parents, they had their faults. They were products of their time, like I said, but they sent me to Chuck Wayne, the great guitar player, Dizzy Gillespie, Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, Tony Bennett, Jackie Gleason he played with. He played with Woody Herman, Stan Kenton, Gil Evans. All right. I'm probably forgetting a whole bunch of people that Chuck Wayne played with. And he gave me some guitar lessons. And he was the best guitar teacher that I ever had. He told me, kid, your picking sucks. And he told me to clean my fingernails. He goes, don't look pretty, kid. And then he told me, you got to start wearing aftershave lotion. So I started putting on I still put aftershave lotion if I think my girlfriend's coming over, but it's Family Dollar fucking aftershave lotion. But I put it on. So, and he taught me the whole system of how the fretboard, and he taught me harmony. Sometimes I'd go there and take a lesson from him, and he would just sit down and play Bach for me for 3 hours, not say a word, and throw me out. He was such a nice man. He was so patient with me. he chewed me out because he figured out that I had been smoking weed right before the lesson, and he reduced me to almost tears. And then he was like, "Hey kid, sit down. Don't worry about it. I'm just trying to pull your coat, you know." And then he pulled out a bottle of booze. He was like, "Hey, you want some wine?" So we wound up. He gave me a guitar lesson, and we wound up like getting drunk. Like, this is just how things were back then. But great guitar teacher. So at the same time, this is all happening at the same time, and I was going up. I took a couple of courses at Juilliard. Yeah, I went to Juilliard, and I took a jazz harmony theory course, and I took composition, classical music composition, and jazz harmony. And my teacher, Mr. Widows, he was really funny. He could have been a stand-up comedian. He used to play the piano to demonstrate harmony, but he would do it with biting sarcasm and kind of campiness too. It was great. Then at the same time, I was going to Hunter College and Juilliard. They're both either side of the Central Park bandshell, so I would just go from one. You know, it was like kind of no-brainer for me. You know, and then I started playing with Ivan Julian, and all this shit is happening at the same time. You know, I just come off the road with the classics, so I went from like, you know, like kind of the world of like Frank Sinatra and Frankie Valli to the world of Richard Hell. So now I'm here playing an Ivan Julian, and that poor guy, I drove him fucking nuts. And that's going to be the topic of our next Simon's New York Stories. And I will tell you what it was like to play all these clubs in the New York punk rock circuit in 1980. The Mud Club, the Danceteria, the Tier 3, the CBGBs, the Max's Kansas City, and, you know, and subsequent things. So now things are going to start really rolling along here. So thanks for listening to this. If you like it, press the like button on the YouTube, hopefully. And I'd love to get comments, even if they're like, "Simon, you're full of shit. I don't believe a fucking word you say. You're making all this shit up." Anything you want to tell me. And if you want to donate something to PayPal, here it is. Look, I found it. See, I'm so prepared, right? It's PayPal, SimonChartier@hotmail.com. If you like these stories, any money I get from these New York stories, I'm just going to use to help pay for me recording. As you know, I got a new record out on Bandcamp. It's Simon and JJ Split EP with the Ball Breaking Pricks, which is my new hardcore punk project with Chris Ara from Murphy's Law. And I don't call it hardcore, I call it hardcore punk, because I'm not a hardcore guy. I'm not a skinhead, and I'm not really like a hardcore guy. I'm a punk rocker. There's a little difference, right? But I hang out with the hardcore guys, and, you know, so we got a project, so we got this split EP. It's like rockabilly and hardcore punk, and it's like definitely, I had a lot of fun doing it, and so go check it out. Any money that's donated, I'm not going to spend it on rent or food. I'm going to spend it on making more records, okay? And that's it for tonight. Over and out. Thank you so much. See you on the next one.